last week on the Nicoletti Show. Let's welcome to the show Jason Matthews. Jason, what's going on, man?
Before you make a purchase, you really have to understand, what the laws allow you to do with the property. You really want to do your homework and do your research and find a good furniture supplier. We like wood tables, decorative pillows that they'll use instead of headboards. White linens, you can bleach them, you can wash them easily. No glass coffee tables, no glass dining room tables. So those are some of the tricks of the trade when it comes to setting up and staging, your property.
Imagine how much somebody could save knowing those little things.
And keep in mind, most guests stay for 3 to 7 days, but our standard was always, would we live in this house, with our kids? And the answer was always yes. I mean, that's a standard that my wife and I have always had. Things are not going to always go perfect, but you want to make sure you respond to make your guests feel comfortable.
Awesome stuff. If you just jumped in or you caught that late, go back and rewind so you'll hear Jason cover those apps and all the special techniques and things that you can do when it comes to this stuff.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Of course, you got it. We'll see you soon. Welcome, everybody, to another episode on the Al Nicoletti Show. So happy to be here with you Wednesday night, 9 p.m. sharp. If you missed the episode with Jason Matthews last week, you got to go back and watch that episode, talking about so many unique things in the short-term rental market, some of the things that a lot of people don't even cover or get into. And I was amazed when I met Jason at the New View conference and he was talking about some of these things like the smoke detector. You don't have to be in the house. You don't have to visit the house if you got people in there that are doing things that they're not supposed to. And, you have all these monitors, you have all these gadgets and gears, and talking about the furniture and, the staging and how you don't need to go above and beyond when it comes to that stuff. So if you missed out last time, you got to get that. You got to go back and check that out. And you can find all the content out there on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, everywhere on there, YouTube, Facebook, all the mediums that are out there. And just so happy that you guys are watching tonight. We have a great episode coming up with Hayden Wrobel. So without further ado, I want to go right straight into it. So let's make this whole thing happen tonight, because with Hayden, Hayden's getting into a lot of the weird and the different world when it comes to real estate. And I think that's going to help us in this economy. And he went off actually just for a second. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for letting me know. Hayden's going to jump back on. But I think what's so important about having Hayden on the show is getting into this market, whatever market we're heading into, whether it's cooling, whether the interest rates are going to affect buyers, or what's happening with hedge funds that are stopping to buy. You really got to focus on some of the things like foreclosures and probates and fire damaged homes, HOA, things with problems with liens on the property. And that's going to be huge. So without further ado, I'm going to go straight into it. I'm definitely going to do something and wait for him to come back on, but let's begin the show. I can rock this whole thing. So let's do this. Hey everybody, my name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and bringing on people all over. That's the big picture. We're bringing on people that are not just in Florida, but they're in other states too, that are doing really interesting things in their industries that can help a lot of people all over the US, in Florida, wherever it is. So it's super helpful on how they can take you and you can take yourself to the next level. So on my show today, I got Hayden Wrobel. Man, it's a crazy story how I met Hayden. So about a year and a half ago, I presented for the first time at the Tampa REO on probate. It was like one of the first in-person things that they had at the end of 2020. And I remember after the presentation, this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, I do these foreclosures and I get into all this crazy stuff. I got a crazy probate." And he was telling me the whole thing. And I think he solved the whole thing, and I didn't hear from him for a while. And then all of a sudden I went to the TB REO and I presented at the TB REO, and I saw him again, even at the Clearwater REO, I think the Wealth Builders. I saw him there, And, Hayden's been in this game for more than 25 years. He's known as the liquidator, and he loves talking about bank foreclosure deals in real estate. And he's been investing in Florida real estate for more than 20 years. He's flipping, rehabbing, repairing countless homes, and he found a real niche in foreclosed property. And that's the one thing that Hayden always talks about at these meetings is the foreclosed property. And we're going to talk today about some crazy stuff. One thing that Hayden really wanted to cover is how the industry is about making money, not working hard or doing everything yourself. And that probably gets into systems and processes and all of that stuff. And how many people disrespect the industry of rehabbing rentals and their money. And we're going to get into sinkhole property. This is what's fascinating about Hayden. Hayden loves talking about sinkhole properties. And I learned the other day that even Polk County's got issues with sinkhole properties. But I know if you've ever seen a map, and if you're at home right now, you got to pull up Google and look up sinkholes, Florida. And you're going to be mind blown because if you look, that Pasco County, that Tampa Pasco County area has got so many sinkhole things going on there. And we'll talk about that. But there's different areas. And can that be a niche? Can that be an advantage? And that's something that Hayden has really capitalized. And of course, we're going to talk about everything from foreclosure, probate. Hopefully we get into fire damage, HOA liens, apartment complexes. And I don't know about you. I'm so ready to talk about this stuff with Hayden. So let's welcome him to the show, Dan. Hayden, welcome to the show, man. There you are. You were off for a second. You're here.
Yes. No, it was technical difficulties. I don't know. I'm not the IT guy, so.
Hayden, as I say on some shows before I start, nobody knows what it's like really running the show. So all those things happen like 5 minutes before the episode. So I'm so happy you're here. Love seeing you at the REIAs. I know you're full of knowledge. You've been in this game a while. I want you to tell everybody, introduce yourself. But how did you get into this game? Initially, and I'm assuming you went through 2008, you went through that cycle, the foreclosure, and then you went through even the high markets now. Tell everybody a little bit of your journey, how you got here, and what your focus is today.
Well, I started off in the mortgage industry. So back in '98, when I graduated from college, I started off in the mortgage industry. And once I knew how to go ahead and cultivate and where the money came from, and then sinkholes came about, and people were like, "Hey, Hayden, can you help me out? I need lending for these sinkhole houses that are unrepaired." So I came across a sinkhole, and then I put the lender, the buyer, and the seller all together. And then at the end of the whole situation, I never got paid from any of it. So I said to myself, that will never happen again. And then from that day forward, I got into buying one house, and then the contractor that was going to fix my house and still fix the house that I was purchasing, he needed money. I knew where to get the money. So we built a relationship. And then from there, I got heavily into the sinkhole. And then from there, I got heavily into buying rentals and buying real estate. And then from maybe 2002 to, I think I stopped writing mortgages at that point. And then I just became fully buying and selling properties because I was doing both at the same time.
So you were buying the auction properties even after 08 hit, like, yep. you were getting into all that stuff.
Actually, in the auction properties, I was buying HOA liens in 08, 09, and 10 because I knew that a lot of that paper was horrible. And so, and I was doing my research and reading, and I was working with other investors. I said, look, there's got to be another way. So in order to get into these houses, and so I knew some of the HOA attorneys, and speaking with them, I got involved with HOA liens and buying those as well. Even though the guys, because at that point, it was open forum, whereas now it's on the computerized and everything else. So that was quite interesting dealing with them because people are like, Hayden, you're an idiot. What the hell are you buying this HOA lien for? There's a $340,000 mortgage on there, and the house is, on the downside, it's only worth $200,000. What are you doing? So yes. I was even questioning myself. But when you're picking these things up for $4,000 to $7,000, and the paper was bad, and I got title to it, how could I go wrong? So
are you still doing that kind of stuff today? Like,
yeah.
you're still picking up the HOA liens, even though there's that mortgage, is it at auctions that you're picking it up, or you're picking it up somewhere else?
No, auctions. We buy them at the auctions. So some of the guys in the business will go ahead and do the auctions in Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, all over the state. Whereas I only go to the live ones. So I still go to the live ones. I like the live ones better, but sitting behind a computer and doing that, not knowing who I'm bidding against and all that, I'm not interested in that. I like the auction, like being in there like a pit, like yelling and screaming, but that's not how the auctions go in a courthouse.
I gotcha. So tell everybody like the niche behind the foreclosure. Like what does that look like? How did you really hone in on that? Because someone like me or somebody that's listening to the show, all the fans out there, especially everybody that's watching live and that will listen later, want to really understand like what the niche is with foreclosures, and especially what that opportunity is today. What does that look like? What are you looking for? What's the deep dive into the foreclosure world?
Well, one thing you have to do in the foreclosure world is you have to do your homework. You have to do your homework, and you have to do your homework, and you have to know the rules and regulations in the state statutes, and you have to do your homework. And I say this numerous times because you get a divorce situation, you get all different people change their names, you get death, you get all these things that take place, and a lot of times people don't do their homework, and then they go ahead and bid on things in which they have no business doing. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people go ahead and disrespect the industry, and I see that all the time. They go ahead and say, well, I can do this. He does it, so why can't I do it? And then it's at the point where you're looking at like, well, there's a lot to this that a lot of people don't really understand. And they're like, well, New York, we do it all differently. Well, that's true, but you're not bidding in New York. You're bidding here in Florida. So the rules and statutes are all different. I mean, you go into the court, you got the 5%, that's non-refundable. You go ahead and pay the other 95%, that's not refundable. So it's within 24 hours, you either realize what you did and don't pay the other 95%, or within 25 hours, you realize that you really made a huge mistake because you didn't do your homework and you didn't learn the way that procedures are in the state of Florida and how title works and how you need to do everything. Even though the property appraiser, everybody's like, oh, we went to the property appraiser, we went to tax collector. As well as I do on those websites, you click on a box that says, I accept the terms in the agreement. A lot of people don't read that and realize that, well, what did I just do? Well, the property appraiser told me this. Well, you check that box and it says that, this is for public information, not to be relied on. Do your own homework. Basically, I summed it all up for all the counties in the state of Florida.
So Hayden, when you say do your homework, what are like the top 3 or top 5 things that someone's looking for when they do their homework, right? Because I get the rules and the regulations, due diligence and title that we can get into, but like when you're thinking almost like a checklist of, okay, if I'm interested in this, or I want to even dive into this, where am I going to look? What are some of the things I want to do? Where do I try to find the area to find this stuff?
2 things you have to do. 1, you have to look at the property. 2, you have to get inside the property. Because no matter how much homework you do, if it's totally trash and it's a dump, and sometimes there is no property. So when you drive by, the house has been destroyed, demolitioned, and there's just vacant land. Well, what happened to the house? Well, great. You're going ahead, and the first has mentioned everybody on title and that he's wiping everybody else out, but there is no house anymore on the property. So it doesn't matter how great your title work is if you never even went and saw the property. So first things first, you got to make sure the property's there. You have the right address. Okay. And you've been inside the property. And that's where a lot of people, my fat ass went ahead and has been through so many windows. And, then again, I've lost so many Hawaiian shirts. Getting caught in glass and stuff, allegedly. The doors were open. I don't know how to tell you. So you have to see inside the property. So that's one thing, because you never know what you're doing, because once again, it's a 100% non-forgivable, you never give your money back after you go to the auction. Once you pay the clerk of court, there is no, oops, I'm sorry, can I have my money back? So
Yeah.
number one,
you got to
is the
know.
property there? Have you seen the property? And number two, who's foreclosing out? Now, this works today, and people still do it today, is that the first, mentions everybody and forecloses them out through the list pendants process. Okay, the second could go ahead and foreclose out, not mention anybody, and just foreclose their position out. So therefore, the second goes ahead and forecloses out. A lot of times people don't do their homework and just realize that the second's foreclosing out and think that's actually the first that's foreclosing the property out. They didn't realize that there was a first on the property, and it's just the second that's foreclosing. Same thing with HOA. The HOA forecloses out, and they realize that there's a first. And so you bid on this HOA lien, and you bid it all the way up to, I don't know, 120, 130,000. Property's only worth maybe 250, and there's a first lien of 200,000. Now you went ahead and bid up a property, and once you pay that clerk of the court all that money, it's done. Certificate of title is issued, certificate of sale, and then within 10 days, 10 full days, certificate of title is then issued.
Yeah. I even heard somebody recently that went to auction, bid on a property, got the certificate of title, only to find out that there were still existing HOA things still lingering around. And it's a problem, right? Because they didn't realize that was something that they were taking on when they got that. So they bid without going through a due diligence process. What are some of the best ways you could do the due diligence? Is it checking, going and looking at the court file? Is it pulling title? Like, what are some of the best ways?
Well, you can then go ahead and pull title. But once again, you have to learn to go down to the clerk of court. Back in 90s, 98, 99, it used to be microfiche. So you used to have to run through all that. Well, you only have one roll. So when you have the day before auction in Clearwater, it used to be at 10 o'clock. It used to be one at 10. And some days it used to be 2. You would go through the microfiche, and then you'd be like, hey, look, I need to pull this, this, and this. And then you realize that the guy, another guy that you bid against, he's already got the microfiche and he's doing it. There's some help there. A lot of times now you can just do it right from home. So it's easy. It's much easier. You don't have to go down there and go through the rolls and have the machine malfunction on you and the bulb is out and there's all kinds of silly maintenance. Not so much anymore today. So, but then again, it was all live. So it was a lot more, hands-on, and you could talk to people and you can go ahead and say, hey, look, this took place and that took place. A little better. Today, somebody in their pajamas in California or Washington State can go ahead and bid on something down here in Florida. Who really benefits and who really doesn't benefit, who knows? But at the same time, but you must go ahead and do your homework, regardless if you even have the title company. A lot of people rely on the title company and think that their information is 100% proof that they pulled everything. No, they're human and they still make mistakes, even though they're underwriters, First American, Fidelity, and list on and on and on. No, the individual still can go ahead and make mistakes after you go ahead and research it. And it's a lot of time and consideration when you do the foreclosure industry. Now, are you going to make mistakes? Yes. Do I still make mistakes today? All the time. But do I know how to go ahead and get around those mistakes and move forward? Yeah. But it's always a constant learning process. But if you get into this foreclosure game, even though the title company and you got in with the title company and they go ahead and do all your work for you, you still got to have the fundamentals, knowing of what you're reading and making sure that they actually did the work properly for you. Okay, so this way, when you go to the auction or you're going in front of the computer, you have a full understanding and you have 100% knowledge and comfortability of bidding on this property. Bidding on the property is easy. but knowing what you're bidding on and what position you're bidding on and how you're maneuvering yourself on that property. Some properties you go ahead and win them at auction, and then you realize that they have an HOA has a moratorium on you renting it out for the next 2 years. Well, did you do your homework in that rent? Well, I bid this all the way up to what it's worth. So what do I do now? I can't rent it because the HOA, that subdivision or that area has a moratorium. Not only that, but now currently a lot of people are bidding on these properties saying, hey, look, let me do short-term rentals. I really don't care how much I bid on the property. Okay, great. Now that you have the property. But did you read the ordinances in that particular area? Because I know the guest before you was Jason last week. And then you go ahead and you bid on the property and you're like, all right, cool. I don't really care if I paid retail for the property. Then you realize that, well, I took all the books and courses on how to do short-term rentals, but does this municipality allow me to rent short-term rentals in this area without going into registering and all this other stuff? Or they just 100% don't allow it. And there's fines and penalties that they have on their charter books and stuff in order to go ahead and make sure that you learn your lesson for not going ahead and doing that in their particular municipality. So, yeah, everything else went great. You got it. You did it. You won it. You got everything clear. You got certificate of title, everything. But once again, did you do your homework on the property itself? Not so much the title behind it, but the property. Seen it, looked at it, been inside it, felt it. It's not a sinkhole. Some of them are. Okay, so once again, the state of Florida does not go ahead and give any disclosure. The clerk of court reads off their reading. Plaintiff bids $100. And then it's up to grabs at that point.
Yeah, well, we're gonna dive in on the sinkholes really soon, but like what you're talking about is going in the property, right? So if you do all your due diligence, and Jason did talk about that on the last episode about understanding the rules and regulations, because if you want to buy property for the use of short-term rental, but that municipality has an ordinance that doesn't allow it, I mean, you're buying that property for what purpose now? Now you're going to sign it out or do something with it. So knowing the rules and stuff is really important about what it is. But like you said, going in, what are some crazy things that you've seen going in the house that on paper, online, when you're clicking and bidding, it looks good. But when you go or you see it, or even from the outside, that you're just like, wait a second, this is not as advertised. This is not what I thought it was going to be. And now this is going to be a huge rehab mess.
Well, the worst is when you go and do all the paperwork and title and everything, then you go out to the property and it's already been demolitioned. Oh. That's always been the one that's like, am I at the right place? Where's the house? Am I at the right place? Then you spend like a half an hour going to the house next door, going to this house over there, and then going ahead and mapping it. And the next thing you know, you're like, you're walking in circles because you can't believe that they actually destroyed the house and cleared the lot, or it burned down. And they cleared the lot, and the next thing you know, you're like, this is vacant land, or they moved the house. Some investors a while back. During the time, one of them is passed away, but he went ahead and would move the house off the land and then let the bank foreclose on the land. But he already moved the house on a piece of land that he owned. So he'd move them off. He'd buy the house, get mortgage on them, and then move the house down the street to a land that he owned free and clear. Was that right or wrong? I'm not here to just, tell you that, but it was crazy. But you have to make sure. That's the worst. The other worst is, hate to say this, but when you see dead animals, because people left animals behind. You see dead animals. You see how many times I've won by the refrigerator and said, oh, God, not another one of these houses. Well, people are angry. You're going through the foreclosure crisis. People got angry. People would take cement and dump it down the toilet and everything.
That's crazy.
But that's people who put cement down the drain. Next thing you know, you have to rip out all those pipes, a demolition saw and stuff. So
there's a bunch of stuff that you've seen. I know you've seen it. Oh, so many things.
that's
And
the most disheartening one is when you see the dead animals. They
crazy.
just left. Kids' clothes. I mean, there's been times where people have just walked out of their houses and left everything behind. And sometimes the electricity and the water are still on, which is a little amusing.
Wild. Well, tell us about the whole world of sinkhole properties, because I think out of all investors I've met, you're the one that like really talks about it the most, right? The sinkhole property. How does a sinkhole even what is it? How do you even find it? Where are they located? Because like I said, I've seen the map before. I know Pasco's heavily sinkholed, learned about Polk, learned about Tampa's got sinkholes. What is it? How do you get into it? What do you do to prevent it next time? What are the costs associated with getting into something like that? Because now you got to fill it. And how do you know it doesn't happen again? And is it the best kind of property to buy once it's been filled in and built up?
All right, that was a lot. I appreciate doing all that. I'm like, all right. So, anyways,
I got a lot for you, Hayden.
Okay, sinkhole properties is a natural occurrence that has happened over the land is moving. It's weathered limestone. Okay, we live on sand. When we're at the beach, sand is dry. We sink in, right? Fatter you are, the farther you sink into the ground. Same thing when the sand is wet, it's firm. Okay. Well, then again, the fatter you are, the heavier you are, the further you're going to sink in. The wetness ain't going to make it where it's concrete pavement. So, same thing. You have a lot of these houses that are all built on sand. The footers are not the footers that we pour today. Whole different building codes, whole different construction than there were, the buildings that were built in, the 70s and 80s and some parts of the 90s. So you have, some of the poor foundations and everything like that. So over time, the sand, the weathered limestone gives way. And there's the house. And the sand is hourglassing through the weathered limestone. And it's going into the aquifer or going somewhere. Now, underpinning secures the foundation of the home, puts it on stilts. What really fills in the hole is grout and chemical grout, concrete grout and chemical grout. And then you go ahead and you pump in, there's all kinds of gauges and refusal. And the same thing with the underpinning is just reinforcing the footer. Now, I'm not an engineer. I'm not rendering engineering advice to you, but that's pretty much the simpleness of it. A lot of the counties that I've seen where the actual house has disappeared into the ground, city-wise, Dunedin, Palm Harbor, Spring Hill. I've seen a lot of those houses actually. Those were the major ones that I've actually seen where half the house is imploded into the ground. Have I bought some of those? Yes, I have. Is it real simple to fix them? Yeah, you just cut that part of the house off, and you go ahead and refill the hole, and then you build right off of there. So it's. Huh? Oh, and this it's interesting because once again you have people who disrespect this industry, disrespect this game, and disrespect the player. Don't ever disrespect the sinkhole. I mean, I was going ahead and doing a sinkhole, and I was reading over the information, and I looked at it and I says, wow, if I don't pick this up for $500, this thing will suck the life out of me and suck the money out of me. Because once I saw how big the anomalies were, like a sonogram when your wife is pregnant and you go ahead and you get the gel on her belly and then you have the sonogram thing, it's the same technology, just you're looking through the ground. I simplified it to all the engineering people. Oh, that's not what it really is. But anyways, you go ahead and I saw the anomaly and I'm like, whoa. So when we go ahead and put the underpinning in it, we cut open the hole. And when we open the hole to go ahead and put the underpin, the block piece just fell into the hole. So here it was, massive hole. Just, I don't know how the house was still standing, but yeah. Next thing you know it, 20 trucks of grout later, I was filling in the hole.
So
Back then, what's up?
Hayden,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. So you brought up a great point. What happens when you're not sinkhole searching? You're not looking for sinkhole properties, but you pick up a property in that area. Is it recommended that you do the sinkhole testing like you're saying? Like, let's just say you're in Polk County or Palm Harbor, and before you buy that property, you bring the engineer, you bring somebody that comes over and says, "Hey, we need to do that whole testing to see if it's going to be hollow inside." And I don't know. I'm thinking to myself, like, wait a second, that area is super popular. I mean, is everybody doing that kind of testing?
No, you get a home inspection. I mean, if you go ahead and you see minor cracks, that's mainly settling. But now, I mean, even though the rules have changed, the laws have changed on payout and sinkhole regulations and all that stuff. But the ground never changed. The ground didn't say, "Hey, state of Florida rate or insurance regulation, that's all changed in how we're going to pay out and how we're going to go ahead and do this." But they never really, the ground didn't agree. The ground didn't say, "I'm not going to go ahead and change the way, I'm going to go ahead and work and weather limestone and everything like that." But then again, it's population growth and they're building in areas. I mean, look, it's water management. Where are you going to shovel all the refuge of when they go to the bathroom? Where's all that going to go? And drainage giving way and all that. So where's all the water, stormwater and everything? How's it going to percolate? Same thing. I mean, you're in the state of Florida. Weather, limestone is all around us. Sand is all the way around us. Are you going to go ahead as certain areas going to be less than other areas? You think that, but in all reality, no. It's just whether you're going to tolerate having a 6 or 7 inch degree between the one side of the house to the other side of the house, depending on if you want to live there or not. But there's settling all over. A lot of houses today have settling. Even after new construction, some of the houses settle. There's no way you're going to get around it. To move out of the state of Florida, I don't know what to tell you. But more areas that are worse than others, I don't really like to say. Just in case some of the guys who are watching this podcast are like, "Why you say my area? Don't say my area. I just bought a house in there. We got a home inspection. You said it was okay." But yeah, the whole state of Florida. Don't live here if you don't want to go ahead. Now, does the sinkhole happen overnight where they just go ahead and swallow you in? No. It's a slow process. Does it happen all ASAP and it's going to swallow you up? No.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
I've seen stories on it, Hayden. Like all of a sudden, like, it'll be on the news. Sinkhole opens up in Pasco County, huge sinkhole, or like it'll be like half the house, right? I remember, I don't know, a couple of years ago, somebody talked about like if you pick up one of the sinkhole properties that they fill, it's actually a lot better to buy that because now it's filled in and less likely later to have that same reoccurrence. Or I don't know. That's what I heard with the sinkholes, that it was an opportunity to buy the property that got filled in. I mean, it would sound scary too, right? Because you would think, oh, now that area is like prone to having the sinkholes, but you're like, no, there's no real difference anywhere you go. It's just a matter of is the condition there going to cause that? But if you buy it where it's filled in, it could be an opportunity. Are there more costs associated with getting into the sinkhole properties?
Yes. I mean, some of the guys will buy these houses, whether they buy them foreclosure or whatever they buy them, but you go ahead and you got to look at it from all sense of it. Is it going to be prone for sinkhole? Are you going to see settlement? Is it a known sinkhole or not known sinkhole? It's all about doing your due diligence and doing your homework before. I mean, people bought houses in Clearwater and it clearly states that it's a sinkhole. They just never did their homework. And it's right there at the property appraiser's office. It clearly says right there it's a sinkhole. So they just go ahead and buy it anyways. And I'm like, well, did you check the property appraiser? Did you read the form? Clearly states that it's sinkhole. I don't know what else. And it's interesting because the other thing is that a lot of people, here's what I always find out. People get all upset They signed off the assignment of contract. And inside majority of the assignment of contracts, it says you have read and fully understood the terms of the contract and take over all responsibilities of the contract. Well, you just went ahead and signed the assignment. You didn't read the contract. Inside the contract, it clearly states this is an unrepaired sinkhole. Once again, do your homework and read. A lot of people don't do it. Okay, it's not rushing through this. It goes back to my original statement. Don't ever disrespect the game nor disrespect your money. And that's what I find like people. They sign off on the assignment. They go ahead and wire the money to the title company. They go ahead and close. Everything is wonderful. And then they finally realize that. Then they pull permits in the county or the municipality comes back and says, so when you're fixing the sinkhole, what? What do you mean a sinkhole? And then they get all lawyered up. Next thing you know, defendant attorney is like, hey, you said you fully read and understood the contract on the assignment page. This is your signature, correct? Yeah. And then people, once again, they don't read nor do their homework.
Yeah. Oh, do your homework. And also, I like how you said, don't disrespect the sinkhole either.
Don't ever disrespect the sinkhole. Don't ever, because people are like, oh, this is an easy fix. We can do this. Sometimes. Or here's a better one. This was just a false claim. There's no real sinkhole here. Okay. Oh, no, that was back when the rules changed and this, that, and the other. Now you're going to go ahead and discredit a geological engineer that has his PhD that signed off on the engineering report. It's basically what you just did. And he clearly stated that he couldn't rule out sinkhole activity. But yet, you're just an investor. You don't have any degrees. And yet, you're going to go ahead and discount a geological engineer with his PhD and tell him he was just falsifying everything. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I bet you've seen a lot of stuff out there that's pretty crazy. And again, I haven't had a guest that talks about sinkholes and understands it and sees it like you have and sees it out in the field. So it's crazy, different stuff to talk about. You know, Hayden, I always have a lot of people that are watching live. The fans are watching out there. I just want to run through some of the chat that's going on right now. You got people going back and forth. My producer, Mike Williams, he's on the road right now. I got Dan in the studio, so Mike's watching. Tyler, he says, you the man, Hayden. And Tyler Tipton. And then Walter, he mentioned something about Dunedin. I bet there's a lot of issues that go on in Dunedin with sinkholes. And he said GPR, question mark.
Ground penetrating radar.
Is that it? That's the sensor?
Well, no, that's the thing that you have a couple of things. You go ahead and that's the sonogram type of thing. You have a ground, there's a little box that's going ahead and sending down a wave, and then it goes ahead and hits, it comes back kind of like a submarine. The noise it makes, because it's about sound waves hitting it and then coming back, and it's going constantly back and forth, back and forth. Same thing with when you roll that little box machine along, and it goes, you keep a grid, and it tells you what you're looking at, and then they take all the data and bring it back to the mothership or whatever, the office, and then they put it in there and it prints it all out, and it tells you, okay, you got different soil composition here, you got firmness here, and you got less over here. The other way is you just do borings where you just go ahead and drill, and you constantly collect soils, and then you go ahead and you analyze it back at the lab.
Never even heard of that before. GPR. That's pretty cool. There you go. Yeah. Something different. Omi, he's watching, goes, my man Al, always got the best content for us. Look, we bring on people like Hayden that have been doing this for more than 20 years. And Omi, this is a totally different topic, especially if you're in that Orlando area. You never know where you're going to be or who's going to have those homes and what kind of inspection things you're going to go through, or even the foreclosures. Hayden's gone through all that, so that's crazy. Walter said, ask that brother and Sefner if that happens fast. What was that?
I have my own take on that whole situation, on the whole thing in Sefner, on that whole thing. I don't know. I mean, look, you go ahead and you do this. You go ahead. Look, I can do jumping jacks on the concrete, right? And a slab. And I got floor covering. What's the probability of me going through it without taking the whole house with me in order for me to fall into a hole? I just don't get it. But one thing I can get is that if you go ahead and cut angles and you're already down underneath the home, and then the walls around the home go ahead and collapse, that's different. Oh.
Crazy.
I don't remember the whole story, but it was kind of like, hey, look, that's not sensational. That's not good at all. You know what I mean? Well, having a man being swallowed up by a sinkhole, that's got a good narrative. Let's go ahead and run with that. Let's get everybody shock and awe, and let's go ahead and get a whole bunch of engineers out here. And the engineers are like, where are we going with this? And who am I working for? That's pretty
Crazy.
much, yeah.
Yeah, Hayden, he said, Walter said, don't inspectors have to record inspections?
As far as what? Inspections as a home inspector? Well, he just works for home inspector. See, the thing is, the home inspector works for the buyer or the seller if the seller wishes to get that. Record anything, not that I'm aware of.
No longer, he said, no longer on the tax rolls.
As far as what?
I don't know. Once in a while, the chat gets a little delayed, so like we can't see what somebody's thinking. Like, you know, we're like going far back. So, you know, anybody that's got questions for Hayden tonight, ask away. I mean, he's been in this, he's seen a lot of this stuff. So, you know, great to go over this. You know, Hayden, one thing that you always talk about in your list is the fire damage homes. Well, we've never had anybody that's talked about fire damage. Maybe Henry Angeli's talked about it before, but where's the angle with the fire damaged homes?
All right, fire damaged homes. It all depends on the municipality you're dealing with. A lot of them want you to build the house. You got to build it back to the latest building codes is the 2020 building codes. So you got to build everything back to the 2020 building codes. And there's really nothing you can do about a fire. The silt, the smoke, the damage, you just rip it all out. And then if you have to rip the whole house out, then you have to rip the whole house out. I mean, a lot of building departments don't know. Well, it's a fire damaged home. Well, we don't really deal with these all the time. We deal with new construction all the time. So we just consider it being a new construction home. But no, the house is already there. We're just fixing it up. It's a fire damaged home. The walls are still there. Some of the walls, you know, even though concrete, you think concrete's hard and everything like that. But sometimes, you know, concrete does get melted and does fracture and it does crack and it does, you know, burst. So you have to be careful with some of those. I mean, literally, it's a guy who's, you know, has got his car in the garage. This is what I see. Guy's got his car in his garage and he's got the jumper cables hooked up to it to keep it charged and everything. And then he keeps it overcharged and he went and tinkered with something in the car. Next thing you know, he caused an overload on the battery. Next thing you know, it over the current too much for the battery to handle, and it starts, you know, disintegrating, and it causes a fire overnight. You know, I mean, it's sad sometimes people, you know, get injured from it, but then they would have the AC on, and so once the AC is on, then the fire just travels even faster because it's getting fresh air, getting sucked up into it, and then blowing back out. So all the fire damaged houses that I've ever worked on, the AC system is the first thing. There's no saving that. I mean, there's no saving that ductwork. Then you just pretty much have, and then the trusses and everything else, you got to make sure all that is back. So you have to pull a demolition permit. So you got to pull a demolition permit, and then you got to pull all the other permits just like you're doing a new construction. A lot of people say, oh, it's no big deal. I can just do this. I can do that. No. Because a lot of people just think, hey, look, I can go ahead and just fix this up, not pull any permits. And the next thing you know, you're in a world of hurt when they go ahead and try to sell it or anything of that nature. When they do their due diligence, like, there was no permits pulled. What happened here? This is a fire damaged home. Fire marshal was out here. Put a tag on it. So he condemned. There's condemnation. So
crazy.
But that's it. The fire damages are sometimes worse than sinkholes. Sometimes sinkholes are worse than fire damage. It's all about what are you looking at.
Yeah, Hayden,
Now I'm starting to read some of the people who are bringing these posts, and I'm starting to see my cell phone. Oh, wow. So it's like,
it's pretty cool, right? You see it on the right-hand side.
yeah, I see it on the right-hand side, and then I see over here, I got my daughter texting me at the same time. So it's and then they got the lightning game going on at the same time. There's always like, so. Oh, by the way, I usually, a lot of times I have so much passion for all this stuff that I just usually just keep on talking and talking and talking.
Well, that's why I thought you'd be great for this, because like you love talking about this stuff, so it's perfect.
Free education for all those who are listening. They're like, hey, you know what? I never read that assignment. Shit, I've been signing off on those all the time. You know, this would be great. I should get the contract now. He's right. I should read the contract these days. You know, the wholesaler doesn't like the fact that I have to read the contract. He's always about, no, you shouldn't have, no, you don't need the contract.
Yeah. You know, Hayden, there's a great question from Scott. He said, have you ever pulled water electric shutoff list? I've tried, but with no luck, JEA in Duval County.
I don't know Duval County. I don't do anything in Duval County.
Well, what about like Hillsborough, Pinellas, that area?
Any shutoffs and all that stuff, as far as shutoff lists and all that, just go down there. Here's what I always find to be amusing. You call, you go online and you call. And you go online and you call. Go down there. It's amazing when you go down to the building departments, or when you go down to the water department, and you go down to all these places, and you go ahead and you talk to the manager or the supervisor, and how helpful they are. Once again, these are government employees. One thing you never do: raise your voice, argue with them, or belittle them. Never, ever do that. You will get absolutely nowhere, and they're going to make your life hell. You go down there and you ask for help, and you're complimentary to them, and you constantly ask them, which direction do I go in? A lot of times those people will be willing to help you, and they'll do all the work for you and give you whatever you want, as long as you're not demanding, you're respectful, and you're nice. It's amazing when people just don't do that. Now, I know the profession that you're in, the attorneys, they go in there demanding this, that, and the other, and they're like, yeah, record this. It's not what you go ahead and say. You're like, hi, how you doing, Sally? Good to see you. How is everything? Yeah, I need this to be recorded for me. I need this back as soon as possible, please. There you go. Sally goes ahead and says, oh, good to see you, Hayden. How's everything going? It'd be personal. Chinchi goes ahead and records it. And then it gets done.
Yeah, so like you said, there's opportunity by doing it like that, right?
A lot of people are lazy. They don't go down there. All they do say, oh, well, you know, I tried online. I called the lady. The lady's a dumbass, this, that, and the other. You know, he's a dumbass. You know, he doesn't know how to speak English properly. You know, this, that, and the other. And it's amazing. Just go down to the property, to go down to the water department, go down to the electrical. Well, electric company is a whole different situation. But go down to the water department, and you'll be surprised on what they go ahead and give you. You'll be surprised on what everybody gives you in the county building. I didn't believe I could get that. Oh, so try doing bankruptcies and going down to the courthouse and checking out there. You got people's social security number. You have nothing redacted in those files. Now, I shouldn't really say that, but especially in the courthouse. But that's a whole different situation. There's nothing redacted in those bankruptcy courthouses and any of those stuff. So you got everything and anybody on everything and anything on a whole situation in those. I'm not telling anything you already don't know, Al, but that was the coolest thing ever when I was checking out those files.
Well, you know, Hayden, we've had some great guests that talk about public records, and the one that comes to mind is Dave Day talking about, you know, there's public records everywhere. There's opportunities to find things everywhere. That's what's crazy about it. I even heard that from Uncle Carl. Uncle Carl, Carl Spielvogel, he once said, he was like, wow, it's amazing Florida's public records access, you know, because some states aren't like that. But like you're saying, there's you go down there, you look online, and a lot of things are online now. So you got an opportunity everywhere you go. But I love hearing you say it, and you're seeing it on the ground level and talking about the bankruptcy stuff. I bet a lot of people didn't know about that. So that's pretty cool. Dylan, he's watching. He says Hayden is the man. He's my go-to resource for sinkhole and foreclosure properties. Look at that. Dylan's watching tonight. Your popular guest tonight. You're like, yeah, I've been doing it for a while, right? You've been doing it.
Because here's the thing. Here's the part that bothers me. And I've always seen it. And people are always like, well, why don't you do it? You pay a lot of these people money for mentoring. They're mentoring on what? A lot of them haven't done it. They've done it for maybe 5 or 6 years. And now they have a mentoring program. They're charging these people all this money. $5,000 a month. $1,000 a month. And end up when they go ahead and it's in a pickle situation, I don't have a problem with them calling me and going ahead and helping me. Look, I didn't get this where I am today because I was just endowed with greatness or anything like that. People helped me, so I have no problem helping others. And a lot of people didn't even charge me to go ahead and help. But one thing a couple of them would refuse to do is allow me just to go ahead and get away with them giving me the answer without me going ahead and doing my own research and homework.
So Hayden, what's some of the best attributes somebody should be looking for in the mentor, and vice versa too? I mean, it's got to work both ways, right? What are some of the best things or best qualities somebody's looking for with that mentor?
It's not so much getting a mentor. It's going ahead and how are you using that mentor? A lot of people use that mentor as if he's the last answer. Are you vetting anything that he said? Are you doing your own homework? Are you furthering your education in this industry? Once again, it gets back to disrespecting it. Al, I go ahead and ask you, Al, we're going to trial on something. Well, I want to know, hey, Al, that's great and everything, but I want to know what the fundamentals are. And I understand that, hey, I'm relying 100% on you. I don't want to rely 100% on you, Al. I want to go ahead and know what we're looking at here. What are the state statutes? How are you governing yourself? What is it that you're doing? No, do I want to duplicate what you do? No. Can I duplicate it? No. There's, the state of Florida will refuse to allow me to do that because of licensing issues. But at the same time, can I get the education that you have? Yeah. Everything that you learned is because you read books, you've read case law. That's basically, you've done it, you've been in there, you've experienced it, you've been in the courtrooms and everything else. It's the same thing. Even though the mentor is mentoring you, you have to govern yourself as an educational basis. It's not just go ahead and ask the question, get the answer from them, and then move on. No, understand your question and understand their answer and get educated on what the situation is.
Love that. Love it. I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to apply it yourself, right? You can't just depend. You got to apply and take those skills and mold it to what works for you. So yeah. Those are some big tips right there. Hayden, the other thing that I know you wanted to cover tonight, which is that the industry is about making money and not working hard or doing everything yourself. What does that look like in the Hayden brain? Is there like systems and processes and, what are you thinking when you're saying that?
Well, you can go ahead and list your own properties and not pay a realtor. Or pay a realtor, and then she can handle all the people who are calling you in reference to your listings. So here you are, you're fielding all those phone calls, you're doing all that work, in which, what do you specialize in? You specialize in go ahead and buying and selling houses, not specializing in selling them. Have somebody who's a trained professional to do that. Even though you're giving a portion of your money to them, but you only have a certain amount of time that you're going to have to deal with. Okay, there's only a certain amount of time that you have, and you're going to have to do a balancing act. And that becomes the bigger problem, is a lot of people work themselves. You can't do everything. You can't do tax deed sales, then do flips, then do probates. Okay, and then go ahead and run a construction company and then run a roofing company, you're not going to be able to do it. You'll burn yourself out. You can't do wholesaling. You can't sit there and with people nights and days and meet with them and then try to do flipping and try to do it. Getting the education of knowing how everything is done, yeah, that's fine. But a lot of people work themselves really hard and they go ahead and do flips. Next thing you know, they're painting on a property. They don't know anything about painting, or they don't know anything about rehabbing a house, or they don't even know the building codes to rehab a house. Whether they pull permits or not permits, that's irrelevant. That has to do with you and the municipality. But whether you're doing the job right or you're doing the job wrong. So you spend all your time going ahead and finding the house, rehabbing the house, doing all the marketing and everything. You drive yourself nuts. You drive yourself crazy. And then you'd be like, well, what happened? Well, why is this happening to me?
Yeah. I'll just say, I mean, you really need to find your groove and find what you want to do and what you're good at and not do everything, right? A lot of people try doing everything. And my mindset is not that. My mindset is the niche. Just like you niched in the foreclosures and the sinkholes, my mind is niching on the probates and weird messed up title things, right? So you start doing everything. I mean, who knows what can happen there. So I like what you're talking about when it comes to this. Hayden, Scott asked another question. I know he's loving this right now. Scott, he said, if you had to choose one form of marketing, what would it be?
Okay, the cheapest and the best form of marketing, go to the house that you want to buy, knock on the door. Knock on doors.
How do you scale that, though?
You find the neighborhood. Well, the best part of marketing, if I dummy this down, okay, best part of marketing in straightforward is go ahead and just knock on doors. The only cost that you have is the shoes and the clothes that you're wearing and the walking to it from where you live, or you could drive and go to the neighborhoods in which you want to own property in as far as rentals, and then just knock on doors. Now, it's not that simple. You have to know what to say. But then again, what do you say on a postcard and what do you say in a letter when you mail all that? And then what kind of response? Well, once again, I'll give you a couple of advice here. When you knock on somebody's door, do not stand on top of the door. Step at least 10, 15 steps back from that door.
That's the best form?
Huh?
This is the best form?
Best form. But you have to learn, you have to figure out what you're going to say to the people and when they go to the house.
Well, what are some things that you would say? Like what are some, all right, so you walk to the house, you're not standing on the door, you step back. What are some things, what would Hayden say in that situation?
Hayden usually has some of his homework. He already knows what the situation is before he goes and knocks on the door. He already knows that they're in foreclosure or there's a settlement issue or, there's a probate issue. I already have an idea of what led me to that door. So when I knock on the door and then I go ahead and say, the probate, they already know that their relative is dead. Don't sit there and give your condolences because you didn't know the deceased. Don't patronize them. They don't want to hear that shit. So you just go ahead and straightforward and just say, hey, look, I have a family and I was looking to move in this area, and I really like this area. Do you know of any houses for sale? Innocent enough. And then stay quiet. Let them answer. You get any answers from, get the fuck off my property, or to, yeah, this house, my brother and sister were thinking about selling it. My uncle, he left it to us and he just passed away. You seem like a nice enough guy.
That works?
Yeah. But the foreclosure saying, hey, I'm looking to go. You already know they're in foreclosure. You've already done your homework before you even showed up at the property. Don't sit there and say, hey, you're losing your house, pal. It's going to be no matter. They don't want to hear that. They already know that. They've been served with enough notices. You're just there as an innocent person saying, hey, do you know any houses in the area for sale? Stay quiet. That's a big problem for a lot of wholesalers. when they get people they talk to people, listen. They'll tell you everything you need to know. But if you constantly speak, you pretty much killed the deal. You're not there. They don't want to listen to you. You're there to listen to them.
That's good advice right there. Don't talk too much. Stop it and listen to them, right? You want to hear what's going on in their mind. And sometimes, Hayden, I've heard from people that when you let them go on their tangent, their rant, after a while they've cooled down, and all of a sudden that's when you start realizing what the pain points are, right? What's going through their mind, what's happening. So I think all of what you're saying is super valuable. I mean, people that have been doing deals that didn't even know some of this stuff, right? That helps people out there. People that are going to listen later that get stuck in these situations, I think that helps a ton. So love all this stuff. I'm sure you've got so many different stories and so many rabbit holes too you can go down with a lot of these topics. But, one thing that I've been doing, I did it on the last show, want to do it on this show because I got to hear your take on it. I know when it comes to foreclosures and mortgages, you're paying attention to everything in the current news, right? So one thing I've been doing lately is the off guard question. You can answer it, you can deflect, you can go on a rabbit hole, do whatever you want with it. But I really want to know your take on. He's like, I'm not ready for this. I really want to know your take on the interest rates that are going to keep going up, like where they're headed, what's going on. What's the prediction with it? I know you got something in your head that you're thinking about. What's to come? Where are we headed with the Fed and the interest rates?
Are they going to do another rate increase? More than likely. Do they want to put a stop to all this craziness and inflation? Yes, they want to do that. Can they afford the interest rates going up? That's another situation. But do they want to slow down? Yes, they need to slow down. You got to have a slowdown. I mean, I see maybe another rate increase. I mean, doing 30, say 3/4 of a point, basis points increase. Yeah. I mean, we're going to get back to normal. Yes. Is the craziness is going to slow? Are we a little different here in the state of Florida? Yes. Because we're outside of the rest of the country. We're still the funnel for 75 and 95. So, but.
Wait, 75 and 95, you mean what range? What's that?
Well, 95 is the Interstate 95 and Interstate 75.
Interstate.
So we're basically, like a toilet bowl. So all the rest, the Midwest and the Northeast flush down into here. So you basically have all those people still coming down here. I mean, look, I think it was you who said it, that the first wave of baby boomers are all coming down here. Well, they're going to die in the next 10 years. You know that. There's no way of getting around it. They were born in 1946 to 1964. So all the people who were born from 1946 to 1951, the first 5 years, mortality rate is there. I'm not saying anything that's not already governmentally statistic and insurance statistically already published. That's basically what's going to happen. So are they moving to Florida? Yeah. Are they moving to Arizona? Yes. And they're retiring. When you retire, it's not like you're reborn. You're going to die sooner or later. So, and they're going to have real estate? Yeah. A lot of them will have real estate. What do they do with that real estate? Can't take it with you. So you got to go somewhere to somebody.
Yeah. So, I mean, that market, that's also a whole thing in itself, right? That silver tsunami thing that's coming or it's here, that's huge, right? So you see that, but I know with all the foreclosures, I'm sure you've seen all the impacts or going to see the impacts of the rate increases. I don't know that world as much as you do and some other experts out there, right? So
there's a lot of things being published about the mere fact of what's happening as far as the deferments, the defaults, and how many people are in foreclosure. That's going up. That's a given. all that's going up. Even I see it when the foreclosure houses on the market and people getting foreclosed out. Those are all increasing. Now you can go down to, once again, down to public records, and you can just check out the docket on how many foreclosure filings. It's called the list pendants. And on the list pendants, they're saying, hey, enough's enough. I'm perfecting my mortgage position. I want to get paid back. And that's basically where they start the foreclosure is they, hey, look, I'm letting the world know we're foreclosing out. And you just watch those numbers, and then you watch inventory numbers, and then you watch days on market, and then you watch pendings, and you watch sales. I mean, everything is pretty much there. It's whether you read it. And once again, please do not read the first two sentences. Read the whole story, because you'd be surprised on what's actually within the first two sentences and what's in the whole body of the article are two different things. I got you to read it. Now read it. Now I got you to read it, the slogan, but you didn't read it from top to bottom. And that's where a lot of people get misdirected. Or basically the person who's writing it doesn't know anything about what the hell they just wrote. That's always been an issue that I've had too. I'm like, maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe I didn't read it right. So I read it again and I'm like, no, they have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah. Do your homework, right, Hayden?
Exactly. That's what I always say. Do your own homework. And then again, you might do your own homework, but then vet out what you already read.
Right.
I mean, you got to
pick.
Yeah. I says you got to go down there, but then you go ahead.
Yeah.
And then you get a lesson. You know, next thing you know, lose money and you get in, but then you got a whole lesson of you doing it. And then next thing you know it, I won't do that again.
Yeah. It's a crazy world out there for sure. So, you know, make sure you do your homework. Like Hayden said, homework, due diligence, read into things, read the whole thing, what common sense that is, right? Hayden, you know, like a lot of people don't read that full story. They'll read the first two sentences. So
stop being so lazy. Yeah, seriously, stop being so lazy. Do your homework. It's clear cut. I mean, that's why people are like, oh, you know what? Let me go ahead and watch Survivor. What the hell are you going to get out of Survivor? Or The Bachelor or Bachelorette? You got to go home and watch that. Yeah, that's going to further your life and your career. But that's what I always find out. You got to make sure you go ahead and do this. There's people who are in real estate and there's people who are real estate.
Yeah. Well, Hayden,
I know. Did I exhaust everything?
No, you did. You did great. I mean, look, what we did during this episode is you really niched down on the foreclosure sinkholes and talked about some of the things to really look for and things getting into mentoring and really understanding, like really doing your homework when it comes to this stuff. So super valuable, and love seeing you at the REIAs and everything. It's great because a lot of those people are new. They come in and, you know, getting into the game. So it's huge. I'm sure you can keep going on about this stuff, but you know, as we're at the end of the show, the one thing I always have the guests do, and you know, you can take as long as you want. I'll make sure I sit here because I see what you're thinking. You know, you're like thinking a bunch of stuff. So, final words, final thoughts on anything when it comes to the foreclosures, the sinkholes. You know, anything a new investor should be on the lookout for, or anything current hot topics that seem to be happening or bubbling right now.
Listen, do your homework. And two things you have to understand. Okay. Where are you? Where are you as an individual? Okay. And who are you? Finding out what you want to do and what your capabilities of doing, and then knowing yourself, okay, helps out a lot of people get into this, okay, but they don't answer two questions. Where are you and who are you? Very simple questions. Am I somebody who doesn't want to do my homework? Am I somebody who doesn't want to do things? But those are the two fundamental questions you have to constantly ask yourself on a daily basis. And then from there, do your homework. I say that numerous times because no matter how many times I'll say it on an Al Nicoletti show or I'll say that in front of a crowd of people, it falls on deaf ears. It falls on my ears too because, I'm lazy too. I'm no exception to the rule. But at the same time, do your own homework. Do your own homework. It's pretty much simple. Where are you? Who are you? And do your own homework. Stop being so lazy.
Thank you, Hayden. I could totally see Mike making the last week on the Al Nicoletti show just a whole bunch of like, do your homework. So we'll make sure we have that recap. We'll make a Mike.
People go ahead and not do their homework, and they'll be like, "Well, I don't need to do my homework. I'll call this fat bearded bitch up, and I'll go ahead and ask him the question. He'll do all the work for me." Sometimes I do that for some of the investors, and it doesn't really help them, but at the same time, I'm always here to help those guys. So
yeah, Hayden, where can they find you? Anybody interested in like going through like crazy things like that? I know you talk about that at the investor meetings. Where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you? I don't even know if you have a Facebook or social media or anything like that, but what are some of the best ways?
Just call me. It's a phone number. If you haven't seen me, I got to go this way because everything's in reverse. You just go ahead and call me. Everybody should have a stress ball. It's really easy. Just give me a call, 727-560-6850. So just call me and just go ahead and just say, even if you're in a situation, you're sitting down with some people and you really don't know what you're doing, and you're sitting down with them and you're saying, hey, there's a deal here. You can go ahead and text me and call me like 3 or 4 times. And then 3 or 4 times say, hey, look, I have a situation. And then I can go ahead and take 5 minutes out of my time, my life, and go ahead and help you. And it will better for me to take 5 minutes out of my life to help you than you go ahead and have a mental breakdown and figure out what you're doing and what not you're doing. And then better for you to call me immediately and I'll get it resolved. And I'll be like, hey, there's no deal here. Or yeah, there is a deal here. This is how you need to structure it. So don't ever hesitate to call me.
Maybe somebody actually calling you already for a deal. You never know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's 727-560-6850. So
there you go.
727-560-6850.
Perfect. So again, if you really got to get in touch with Hayden about anything, there you go. He shows up at the TB REIAs, the Tampa REIAs, the Wealth Builders REIA. I mean, Hayden goes to a lot of these spots, so you can find him there. If you can find Hayden.
I'm not obligated to go to all those things, but if you need to get a hold of me, don't wait. I don't want you to go ahead and wait until the second, third, whatever day meeting, Thursdays or Wednesdays. If something's really pressing you, then just go ahead and call me. 727-560-6850. I'm reading some of the things on the side. What was the number again? And it's like, I get it written on my shirt. How many times you want me to say it? But I don't have a problem.
Yeah. Hayden, awesome seeing you. Awesome that we got to do this and planned it out in advance. And again, talked about some things that I haven't had on the show yet. Haven't had a guest that gets into sinkholes or, kind of covers the foreclosure auctions and stuff like that. But always good to hear from somebody that's been doing this in the game for a while. So just want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for dropping all these gems and these bombs. And I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having the show. Thank you for doing this. All the hard work that you put into this. You don't need to do this. You do this in order to help the fellow investor, fellow attorney, because a lot of attorneys call you and, go ahead and get free legal advice from you. And thank you for doing this on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis.
Yeah.
So,
weekly.
If it wasn't for you, there would be no Hayden on your podcast. So I'd like to extend the thank you back to you.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we got people that come on, that have been doing this just like you, that have different industries, different niches. So love it. Yeah, I love giving back, and I love help contributing to the fans that are out there that want to learn more about the real estate investing world or real estate or wherever we go with it, right? You never know where the world is with the guests. So, Hayden, I'll see you soon, man, at a REIA near you. I'll see you
Yes.
soon, and we'll definitely catch up again at dinner.
You got it.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.
You got it. Take care.
You got it.
Bye.
Well, if you didn't catch the episode, you got to go back to the beginning, because actually this was a different episode, because we got down in a niche of foreclosures, sinkholes, fire damage things, mentoring. And the best part about the whole thing, if you didn't catch it from the start to finish, do your homework, right? Doing your homework and doing your due diligence in all these deals that you cover. So Hayden's been doing it for more than 20 years, getting in a lot of crazy deals. He went through the whole '08 period. He saw a lot of the things. He got into all the HOA lien stuff, all the weird stuff. So you are learning from somebody that's been doing it. And Hayden, he's out in the local community, which is wonderful too. So he sees what a lot of people are working on, a lot of the investors, and getting out there, going to all the REIAs, and really just getting his name out there. So again, we'll put up the information if we can at the end, but make sure if you have any questions, reach out to him. And thank you everybody for participating. I love it. I mean, it was huge participation. Thank you, Walter. Really appreciate all the participation. Scott, great questions out there. Mike, I know you're listening in the car. You're ready to chop up the micro content. And I mean, just so many things. Dylan, thanks for watching. And, we're going to keep this show going, and it's going to keep rolling. We're going all the way into summer, all the way into fall. So many more guests that are coming on the show. I mean, the lineup is huge. So much value out there for everybody. And if you're thinking of a topic that we haven't even talked about yet, would love to hear the feedback on, we should have this one on, or a topic on this. We love to hear what people are thinking. Whether you're watching the live or you're going to hear this later on iTunes and Spotify and YouTube or wherever it goes, we always love to know, what is it that you're thinking? What's burning on your mind as a topic that would be really helpful so you can learn? Or maybe it's something you're going through right now. That would be a great guest that really niches down in the industry. That would be huge. So love it. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight on the show. Next week, I want to make sure I get this right, because I don't know if I had it right last week, but next week is Mr. TikTok. Mike Novak is coming on the show live. I know that's definitely, he's next week. So Mike Novak's coming on, and it's crazy because Mike does deals, and he's able to assign deals and show deals through TikTok. And I don't think he uses any other marketing except TikTok, and he loves it and loves going through it. It's amazing. So Mike's going to come on the show. It's going to be a great time. And make sure you tune in, set your alarms, set your calendars, set your reminders. Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it. Guests that come on that bring on tons of value, tons of energy. And love you all out there. I will see you next week, and have a great night. I will see you soon.